Hello, friends, and welcome to episode number 54 of Nostalgia Talk, also the second one of the year 2023. I'm James, and joining me this time around, actually, before I introduce the guest, first of all, I should mention this. From the show that I've been working on all these months, I've mentioned on Nostalgia Talk, I've been working on a TV show. It's finally coming out. I can finally announce that. If you have MGM Plus, as it's called, it will be released on MGM Plus on April the 23rd. I did a lot of cool stuff for that show. I was a set dresser, so I just moved stuff around every day. It'll be interesting to watch the show. Like, hey, I remember picking that thing up, nearly damaged my back. So, and now let's get on with the show. Joining me this time around for Nostalgia Talk is Sabrina. Oh, I almost messed up the name. Serena Berman. Welcome to Nostalgia Talk.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. And
Mhm.
congrats on your show. That's so exciting.
Thank you. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, Serena is an actress and voice actress. She has been on the show W.I.T.C.H, or Witch, as Elyon Brown, has done Lucy Van Pelt in two Peanuts productions, such as Lucy Must Be Traded Charlie Brown and Charlie Brown's Christmas Tales. No relation to the popular Charlie Brown Christmas, of course. Um, she was on Justice League, Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide, and has done a lot of work in the theater as well. Another TV and theater person. Last week we had one on, and this week we've got another one. So welcome,
Oh,
Serena.
yeah? Oh, awesome. Thank you. It's really exciting to be here.
It's really exciting to have you here. So let's begin with how did you become interested in acting?
Oh gosh. I just like really got hit by the bug young. I danced. I was in plays as soon as I could talk. And growing up in LA, I think it was kind of like I feel like this is a very LA story, but my parents had friends who had like a small agency and they were like, "Oh, your kids are cute and can sit still. Like, why don't you try acting for them?" And so my sister and I both started doing that. I was probably like 2 maybe, and she was 7. And she did it until she was maybe 10 or 11 and then decided she was not happy and quit. And I loved it and kept going. So yeah, that's kind of how I got started.
Hmm. So what were some of your like biggest inspirations as you continue to grow as an actor and a performer?
Oh, that's a really good question. I was a huge musical theater nerd growing up, so like anything and everything musical theater. I was obsessed with Les Mis. I would like sing it in the car, so like every actress who ever played Eponine like was top of brain for me. And then as I got a little older, I got really into Stephen Sondheim, so like Bernadette Peters and Patti LuPone and all the people in like the Stephen Sondheimiverse. Um, yeah. I don't know if that answers that question,
No,
but
that's
yeah.
that's very fair. So you were more interested in doing like stage stuff than on-screen stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I loved doing on-screen stuff. It's kind of funny when you get started so young, it almost feels like it's another after-school activity, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
because it's serious and like you but in a sense like you're going to school. I mean, I think there are kids who don't stay in school and get homeschooled and sort of like take their career very seriously on that level. I was always in school. Like I would go to school, I would get picked up, taken to an audition. I was allowed to get like a Coca-Cola from the vending machine. Very exciting. I would do the audition and
That's
then I would
probably the
like,
best part. Yeah.
oh yeah, loved it. Loved it. Like my mom was like, "Caffeine? Yes, let's caffeine you up so you'll be like
Yeah, get
energetic
you
and
all pumped up and ready for it so that way you don't fall
peppy."
asleep.
Exactly. And part of that I think is also because so much of acting is about rejection, and when you're that young, that can be, I think, like a little bit psychologically damaging. So I think when you have kids who are child actors, it's like really important to just make it feel fun and make the whole thing fun and low stakes, because most of the things you're doing are auditioning for things that you don't get. Um, and I mean, I think this is so true being an actor as an adult too, and it's so much easier to lose track of because like your livelihood depends on it, and you have a little bit more of a sense of where you want to be and what you want to be doing than you do as a kid. But like most of your job is just auditioning and like trying to get things, and that part has to be fun. If you don't like that part, like you shouldn't do it, you know?
Yeah.
So I think being a kid, it was like I and I think also when you're a kid, something that's really important is just like being really authentic and really yourself. So I don't know that I looked at like kids who were big child actors and I was like, I want to be that. I want to model myself on that. I think I was just like, I'm going to try to walk into a room and like be myself and do the best I can do. And it wasn't until maybe I got a little old. Whereas like theater was, it felt something like really unattainable to me. I think maybe that's part of like being in LA too. It's not like, I think New York kids grow up around the theater much more. Like the TV film world was the world I was a part of, and so in some ways, like um, I didn't understand it on that level, but theater felt like this sort of far away, unattainable goal. And then eventually, when I went to college, I went and studied theater.
Mhm.
Um, but I really loved working in film and TV growing up, and I still love it. And voiceover as well, like is I kind of fell into it, and I'm so glad that I did because I think it's such a joy.
Mm. So with stage shows, obviously you did a lot of musicals. Do you remember the first time you ever performed on a stage?
I think it was, yeah, I think the first time I like really performed on a stage, I was 7 years old, and my dance studio did a production of The Wizard of Oz, and I was Dorothy. And I had like short curly hair, and my mother, like not part of the costume budget, like went out and got me hair extensions so I could have like Dorothy braids. Um and yeah, there's some really cute pictures of me with like no two front teeth as Dorothy out there somewhere. But that was the first time I can remember like doing a show, and I loved it. I also did like this community theater in LA called the Santa Monica Playhouse. Did that growing up, did shows in school. But that was all, more sort of like recreational until I got a little older.
Hmm. Yeah, I did a couple of plays myself as well, as a matter of fact. When I
Oh
was in
yeah?
when I was in elementary school, I did 3 plays in elementary school. We did a version of Treasure Island, and I'd never read Treasure Island. I never knew much about it. They cast me as this Long John Silver character. I was like, I don't know who that is, but okay. And so I I was 11 at the time, and like being a film person now, obviously I watched a lot of. I was young at the time, so a lot of like funny movies, mostly Jim Carrey and Robin Williams with a lot of
Mm,
slapstick in them, like The
mm-hmm.
Mask and Mrs. Doubtfire, Ace Ventura. And so I did so much ad-libbing to the Treasure Island script that oddly enough, if it had been a Jim Carrey movie, it probably would have been like Ace Ventura and The Mask with pirates.
That's so funny. All your models and heroes were like big improvisers. So you're like, yeah, let's do this. Let's improvise on
Yeah,
my
yeah, I
on my
did. Yeah,
elementary school show.
yeah. As I kept going into theater, eventually I thought I used to get bullied a lot, and so eventually that kind of I wasn't getting bullied because I was doing this stuff, but the emotion of it was a little bit too hard for me. So I was like, you know what? I don't think I really want to do this. I've done
Yeah.
it kind of. I've done improv with the Neptune Theater here, kind of on and off,
Oh,
when I have the
awesome.
time. But mostly I'm just like sticking to behind the scenes stuff. Of course, I just wrapped a series that is coming out soon, so
Yeah.
so that's that. And one of the things I really like about theater when you work in this industry is that you see an actor and you're like, oh my god, that person is really really good. Maybe they'd be fitting for this role that I'm thinking of putting in the script.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, we were
It's a
talking
great
about that
way.
in film school one time. Mhm.
Oh, cool. Like about trying to find actors by going to see them in shows, that kind of thing.
Yeah, we did. We almost did that, but then the pandemic happened.
Yeah, that really changed the theater landscape for sure.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad you mentioned improv because I'm such a huge fan of improv. I started doing it when I was like 14 and fell in love with it and have been doing it ever since.
Yeah, improv really is a lot of fun. I sometimes I like to do it on these shows. I took an improv course once, and I met somebody who ended up becoming one of my really really good friends, and she's in the industry now, and we did this exercise where one person comes to the center of the stage. We used just our studio as our stage. Next person comes, and the other person starts the line. So I decided to start her with something by making my character look like he drank too much. I don't drink, but I was like, wouldn't it be funny if this character just drank too much and everyone had questions about it? So she's like, um, excuse me, Mr. Bus Driver. I didn't know she was gonna say that. So she's like, would you mind explaining to me what's all over your face?
Well, that's, I mean, the joys of improv is you can be a drunk bus driver on an improv scene. No
Mm-hmm.
stakes. Everyone's safe. It's
Yeah.
okay.
So, after doing like theater stuff, eventually you got into like acting on film and TV and stuff like that. Do you remember the first time you ever did that?
Yeah, well, that's actually how I started.
Mm-hmm.
I
Oh, wow.
I think the first thing I did was like a commercial for maybe like the Canadian Broadcast Network or something like that. And I have very vague memories of this because I think I was like 2 years old, and I have no idea what the commercial was actually for. But they stuck me in a pile of flour, like cooking flour, on the floor. They put a little chef hat on me, and they just they were like, throw the flour everywhere, and filmed me doing that. And like that's all I sort of very vaguely remember about that. I did like a bunch of commercials growing up. I was in a Super Bowl commercial, like an Oscar Mayer Wiener commercial, um, where I was like a little dancing, singing polar bear, and we did the like Oscar Mayer Wiener song, and I remember being like so surprised that, or I was like so excited I was gonna get to see snow because I was like a California kid. I'd never been in the snow, and of course we were like in a lot in fake snow. And I was so bummed it was fake. And it was so hot. And I was in this like sweaty polar bear suit, like tossing fake snow around. Um, and I did like a McDonald's commercial, a Discover Card commercial, like a handful of things here and there. Um, I think I think maybe the first TV thing I did was I did an episode of America's Most Wanted. That's kind of a funny
Please don't tell me
story.
you were the one who was the most wanted.
I was in fact not sat. Well, yeah, that would be interesting. But I was like 3 or 4, maybe 4 or 5. But no, I got murdered in a reenactment,
Oh, whoa,
and
jeez.
yeah,
That's
I didn't.
much worse there.
I was not allowed to see that until I was older, and also like they had to film it in a way where I didn't know what was going on. Like this is so dark, but they were like I had to like lie down. It was in a bowling alley, and I had to lie down like basically in a pool of blood because I had just gotten shot, and I was like
Jeez.
a small child. It's so sad, and my mother would not let them shoot the other side of it, which is like a scary man holding a gun, like
Mm-hmm.
with me in there. So basically, like they shot me lying on the floor where they didn't tell me what I was doing. They were just like, "Be very still in this puddle," and it was not until years later that I like watched myself get shot, and I was like, "This is horrifying."
Why did I sign
Yeah.
up for this? Or why was I signed up for this?
Yeah, the magic of film is you're like, "Oh, okay, that's me as a toddler getting shot. Great."
That's that's an interesting start.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
Mhm.
But yeah, it really goes back to that thing of like, just make sure the kid is having fun. Don't let them in on the very dark potential material they might be doing. Just like keep the atmosphere light. Yeah, it's fun. I mean, I can't imagine what it's like working on the other side of production with like a bunch of young children. Now
Mm.
that I'm an adult, like, and I teach kids sometimes. I teach and I
Oh,
coach,
nice.
which is great. But yeah, it's like a really you really have to be very patient and oftentimes like come up with like a very roundabout way to get a kid to do what you need them to do on set. Like
Mm-hmm.
and to sort of keep them from getting bored or tired or their energy flagging, to make sure they stand in the right place, can do the same thing over and over. Like it's really a puzzle of like how do I so I hope I was well behaved. I think I was, but apologies to anyone who had to work with me if I wasn't.
You're not giving yourself enough credit.
I think I was very well behaved, and I think that's why I kept doing it, because I was pretty like quiet. I think I wasn't quiet if you if you knew me or if I was comfortable, but like in these types of situations, I was pretty like quiet and
Mm.
behaved.
Yeah, when I was doing the musical in elementary school, because everyone was all there and we had to rehearse basically on stage the entire thing in a day because we did it weekly, and then eventually we did it every day until opening night. Everyone brought, this was at the time that small handheld video game consoles were really popular, so everyone just brought their DSs, and I remember having a Mario Kart contest with a few guys.
Oh, that's so fun. Yeah, this is gonna age me, but when I was a kid, like Game Boy, like old Game Boys were the thing, and I really wanted one, and for whatever reason, my mother would not buy me a Game Boy, and I was so sad because like really, it's like spending time in audition rooms. Like there's often just a lot of kids, and you sign in, and then you have to wait like 45 minutes, and 45 minutes to a kid is basically 6 hours. So like
Yeah.
all I would see all these kids on their Game Boys, and I really wanted one. I never managed to get one.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I was 11 at that time. Can you imagine? Because they always say video games rot your brain, and it's like,
Sad.
all right, James, we need you on. So, just a minute, I'm coming in first on.
Yep, yep. And now, I mean, yeah, now any kid who has to wait for anything just gets an iPad, right? Like, what a dream. Would have loved that when I was little.
Yeah, yeah. Mm. So, do you remember the first time that you ever did voiceover?
Um, I think it I think it was probably Charlie Brown. I'm
Okay,
trying to think if Justice League came first. It's possible that it did.
okay.
But
So like
I
you did them both at the same time period then.
yeah, it was around the same time period. And I remember like auditioning and being very like what is happening, like what. And at that time, it's funny now, like it's so much remote and from home, and I just sort of go into my little closet and use this mic that you see here, but like I have a little padded out closet that's my booth. But at the time I was just like taken into a casting office where they had like a professional booth, and they just like stuck headphones on me, and they were like act into this microphone, and I was like what, okay. And I yeah, I mean, again, I think that when you have kids that are, I was probably 9 or 10, and I think it's just like hoping that a kid can kind of be as like natural and unforced as possible. And I had to do a lot of screaming in Justice League. Um, and I don't know if that was the first one or Charlie Brown, but Charlie Brown was so exciting. Like
Mm,
everyone there is kids, so whereas a lot of the other projects I did, I was like the only kid around,
hmm
which is kind of fun in its own way. But like Charlie Brown, the atmosphere is so much like it's made for kids. So the studio, like you're in the studio and you're in the waiting areas, and there's like a kitchen that is just like stocked with like candy and soda and every sweet you could
Now
imagine. It's
that's
like
how you entertain kids that are in film. Like, yeah.
exactly. It was like I felt like I was in like Willy Wonka. Like it was all the things I was not allowed to have, that like I was like I've never seen all these things in one place. Like what is happening? And then there's like all these other kids, and you're like playing cards with them and getting to know them and like sussing each other out while you wait. And usually I think you go and you record one by one, but you're like sort of hanging out in the waiting area and like meeting other kids, and you like they make you feel very. I totally felt like a celebrity in that moment. I was like this is so cool, like all these kids
Mm,
are kind of like here to do this. Yeah, it was really exciting. I loved it.
mm. Now, were you a Peanuts fan before all of that?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I loved it. I'm sure I had seen Charlie Brown Christmas before, and I definitely read the comics. Like I was a big like Sunday funnies person. And it was especially the Christmas one, which I think was the first one I did, was really exciting because they made it as like a companion piece to Charlie Brown Christmas, which is like probably the most iconic one, at least in my opinion.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely, totally.
yeah, so like the reason was because Charlie Brown Christmas is only a half hour, and they wanted to, when they showed it on television, like they had an hour slot, so they wanted to make something else that could be paired with Charlie Brown Christmas. So that's how Charlie Brown Christmas Tales came to be. And every year until like very recently, every Christmas time, like they would show those two together. And now
Hmm.
because of I think Disney Plus and like Apple TV Plus and all the streaming things, it's a little bit different. But yeah, so I felt like I was like a part of history doing that. It was really exciting.
Yeah, that's a good feeling because Peanuts, it's had such an incredible legacy, and
Yeah.
here you are playing one of the most iconic comic and cartoon characters ever, basically. Lucy is very well known and very funny too. Like, she's always got some of the funniest lines from the Peanuts specials, mostly as a complainer.
Yeah, yeah. I remember what they liked about me and they kept like encouraging me to do more was they were like, "You're such a mean Lucy," and we love that. Like, be meaner. And I was like, "Okay." Like, and I was like sweet and I had like a little squeaky voice, but like I was just like, "You're giving me permission to be as mean as I can." So, and they were like, "Yeah, you're so mean."
Well, before they put out that animated Peanuts movie that came out a few years ago, like I really wanted to write a Peanuts film, and it was just me
Yeah.
and my friends, and I wanted to play Charlie Brown. I think I actually shot some of it with my friends, not all of it, but quite a bit of it.
Amazing.
I think I was doing Charlie Brown, and my best guy friend, because Linus is Charlie's best guy friend, so I asked my best guy friend Joey, who I did a lot of video stuff with, to play Linus. I think I have a video somewhere. Joey, I'm sorry, but I think I still have a video of you sucking your thumb somewhere.
That's so fun. I love
Yeah.
that.
And I thought for Lucy, because again, I used to get bullied a lot. So I'm like, who's the meanest kid I can think of?
Yep, yep. You need
I'm
a really
sorry
mean
to
kid.
anyone that I grew up with.
Yeah,
So,
it's funny too. Like Charlie Brown, there was like it's the most particular job I ever did because there's like a very specific speech pattern that like is really iconic in that Charlie Brown thing. It's the like da 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 da, and they would really like coach you into a very particular sort of way of saying the lines that like isn't always totally natural but is really kind of like nostalgic
yeah.
to quote the title of your thing. Like it's this kind of really nostalgic like warm feeling where it's like not totally what you would necessarily like think that a kid would sound like, but then it's this very like Charlie Brown in world thing. Um and and yeah, like you're sort of in some way like a part of a legacy from the way that they kind of like have you like
Yeah.
coach you into doing it.
How did you hear about it?
I think that I mean I had an agent at the time and I think I just kind of got sent in for it like any other audition and just got lucky enough to book it.
Nice. Wah, 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 wah. That's trombone for my next question. Being a Peanuts kid, do you have like a favorite Peanuts memory or one that really sticks out in your head?
Ooh, do you mean like a part of the show or like a memory from being in the studio or what kind of thing?
Yeah, part of the show.
Ooh,
Like, because of course everyone remembers the Christmas special.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
Hmm.
Definitely the Christmas special. It's funny, the Christmas tree I got this year, and I'm like very Jewish, so I've never actually had a Christmas tree before.
Oh,
But my partner, uh, and I got a Christmas tree this year. He's not Jewish, and or he's a little bit Jewish, but not really. But we usually leave town for Christmas, but we didn't this year, and so we got a Christmas tree, and like it was very much a Charlie Brown tree. It was like the ugliest tree that they had, and they gave it to us like heavily discounted, and they were like, "I'm positive you don't want this tree. Everyone keeps telling us how ugly it is. Like if I'll give it to you for like $50 if you'll take it." And we were like, "Yes!" So and it was like our little Charlie Brown tree, like it's just this kind of like skinny, dwarfy little tree.
well, do they
So
know that you played Lucy?
I didn't mention it, but maybe I should have.
That would have been funny. It's like, fitting. I've been a part of this crap.
Yeah, and we always play the Charlie Brown Christmas like soundtrack on loop during the
Mm.
holidays.
It's
Um
funny. I gave my sister a record player for Christmas, and very coincidentally, my friend gave me a Walkman. So, and
I love that. That's so funny.
we've been collecting old and new vinyls, and I've been collecting old and new cassettes. Like she actually gave me some to go with it. Like I gave my sister's a huge Taylor Swift fan, so I gave her the new Taylor Swift album. My friend to go with the Walkman gave me a Hanson album, and a Backstreet Boys album.
Amazing.
So we've
That's
kind of
great.
so we found my dad's old records. I thought, okay, I don't have a lot of cassettes, so I've gotten Phil Collins, Mariah Carey, Celine Dion, Simple Plan, All Time Low, Hootie and the Blowfish, Bryan Adams.
Oh wow, you got a good collection, man.
Yeah.
Cassettes.
Hmm.
I don't know if I have. I mean, I must. I'm sure because my mother never throws anything away, and
Same.
cassette, but they break so easily. Like
Yeah.
cassettes are wild. I used to when I would take voice lessons when I was a kid, my voice teacher would like record our warm-ups onto cassette tapes so I could like listen back and like practice with the tape, and like without fail they would always break, and it would just be like bits of tape rolled around like every week. Probably because I was
Like
playing
that.
with them. Yeah, I was probably doing something I shouldn't have, like winding it up or something. But
Mm,
yeah, it's.
yeah.
Are you enjoying the cassette life?
Oh, absolutely. It's it's a lot of fun to walk around my neighborhood listening to Bryan Adams, All Time Low, Simple Plan, Backstreet Boys, because like my friends expect me to listen to this stuff.
Yeah, you got the nostalgia market cornered.
Exactly. So like a friend of mine saw me with a Walkman and is like, is there actually something in there? I was like, let's see. Yep, Bryan Adams. And my sister and I have made a few trips to a record store. She's like, I need to find some new records. And she says, you want to come with me? I was like, well, I know they sell cassettes there. And
Oh, I see.
we
You're like
found,
cassette, no records. I want
yeah.
cassettes.
Well,
Yeah.
I have a record player. I just haven't used it in a bit, and I don't know if it still works. I'm going to test it out.
Mm.
But I mean, records are cool. I do have a little collection of records too. But yeah, we went there and we found the Charlie Brown Christmas record on vinyl and on cassette.
Oh my God, mate. Oh, that's, I'm gonna hopefully my partner doesn't listen to this, but if or he does and then he forgets, but that would be such a good present next year. It would be Charlie Brown Christmas on vinyl. That's a good gift. I don't remember
Mm,
that.
I'll you should come here. I feel like it's still available here. So
Oh, incredible. Yes, I
mhm.
will. I will trek out.
Yeah, I remember
Pilgrimage.
being a big Peanuts fan. I remember doing a project for school. It was like we had to make a PowerPoint that was like a newspaper about us, and we had to talk about favorite music. A lot of people, I hadn't really been yet introduced to like Simple Plan, Backstreet Boys, 98 Degrees, All Time Low, Britney Spears, any Jonas Brothers, anything like that. So I said, whatever the heck his name is, I can't say his
Giraldi.
name.
Yeah,
Thank you.
right?
I said
Yeah.
Roy Orbison and Vince Guaraldi. I have Roy Orbison too. Next thing I know, Simple Plan's got a new album out, and I'm like, these guys are good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And really nice guys too. I've gotten to hang out with them after
Oh,
one of their
that's so
shows.
cool.
Yeah, really cool guys.
Oh,
Mm,
that's great.
mm. So let's move on from the peanut stuff. I'm glad you brought up Justice League actually, because I did want to ask you, did you get to know Kevin Conroy?
No, that was one where I was truly like in by myself, out, that was it. And it wasn't until I got to watch it that I really even understood like what I was doing. Because
Mm,
a lot of times sometimes they will, I mean, like when I did Witch, I would get to record with people a lot, and that was awesome. And that was kind of the first time I really got to do that. But a lot of the time, because of the way that the ease of recording, like they'll just kind of bring you in on your own, have you do just your part, and then that's it. And you're like, oh, okay, like I don't really know, it's very different to being on set where you can sort of like feel the whole mechanism happening around you.
right.
Um, so no, I mean there were so many incredible people involved in that show, and I can tell you that I met zero of them, sadly.
Yeah, I was wondering that too, because like as I was researching for this, I noticed that a lot of people very this might God, I'm trying to make this not sound like I'm being a jerk, but
No, not
really,
at
really,
all.
really famous people like Neil Patrick Harris and
Yeah.
yeah, like they had guest spots on that show. I thought to myself, wow, that's cool. That's because like Kevin Conroy, who, if any of the listeners don't know Kevin Conroy, who is the best voice actor for Batman in animation, he just passed away a couple months ago.
Yeah.
Um, but and he's really famous as Batman. But yeah, Neil Patrick Harris and I'm trying to remember who else was on that show. I think I've got it right here actually.
Hmm.
I saw your name there, but it came under recurring.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah.
On Justice League? I mean, that's a thrill because I'm pretty sure I was only in one episode, but
Hmm.
maybe two. Maybe they like replayed it
Hmm.
in the part two. But
I'm looking here at who's been on it. A couple of people I know. Jason Marsden.
yes, and he did Witch as well.
He's
Him
cool. I
I
like
got to
him.
meet him a couple times and he was lovely. Yeah, he's
He
great.
is so funny. He
Yeah,
is
he's really
so
funny.
funny. Phil Lamar, I haven't met him. Kevin Michael Richardson. I really like Kevin Michael Richardson. Garrett Morris. Oh, from Two Broke Girls and Saturday Night Live.
Oh.
Oh my God. The guy who played Krueger in Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh no way. That's so
Robert
funny.
Englund. Andrea Romano. Phil Proctor, another past guest on this show.
Mm.
Ian James Corlett, a fellow Canadian. Jim Meskimen. Danica McKellar. Wow. Corey Burton. Wow, that's this is the same. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
Dave Thomas,
stacked.
the same Dave Thomas that I'm thinking of. Wow.
Yeah. It's fun. I mean, with voiceover, like it 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 takes so little time to do. You can oftentimes really get like assemble a really stellar cast because you can knock out like if they're a guest star, it's really like in and out. And even if
Mhm.
they're a recurring, like when I did Witch, and it was basically like once a week for a couple of hours, if that. And
Right.
I mean, I'm sure you know this because you interviewed a ton of like huge voiceover people, but like they all have a million credits, way more
Oh
than
yeah.
anybody doing on screen stuff could possibly have because you can
Mhm.
really like knock stuff out and you can assemble a crazy team because you can build it around their schedules. You don't have to get everyone in the same space at the same time.
Yeah, Bob Bergen. Do you know who Bob is?
I think
Porky Pig and
so.
Tweety.
Oh, yes, 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 of
Yeah,
course.
he was another past guest on this show, and that's something that he was talking about, and especially for feature films, because there's like voiceover artists
Yeah,
like him that are doing background characters, but of course, what's going to get more box office buzz? Bob Bergen doing Buzz Lightyear, or Tim Allen or Chris Evans doing Buzz Lightyear?
exactly. It's so
Hmm.
easy to get a celebrity to do a voiceover gig because the scheduling is so much easier. Like so in many ways, like if you were a celebrity, it's a great gig. You get to kind of like come in at your leisure. You can wear your pajama pants. Like you're not in hair and makeup. Like you do your thing and you go. And then they're thrilled because they've got like the voices of all the biggest names out there right now in one movie, and none of those people ever met each other or were in the same space at the same time. But it
Yeah,
sounds like
that's
they were. Like that's the magic of what the editors and the directors do is like they put together something that you would never know, like these people weren't actually playing off of each other.
Austin Pendleton. Do you know who that is?
Yeah, oh yeah, he's
Yeah.
actually a big theater guy.
Yeah, he's another past guest that I
Oh,
interviewed,
amazing.
and he was in Finding Nemo.
Hmm.
And I said to him, "Did you get to meet like Ellen DeGeneres and Albert Brooks?" And he said, I didn't have very many lines, and then they bring my character back for Finding Dory. I didn't work a day on Finding Dory. They just took out the audio that I had recorded for the first
Right.
one."
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And there are a couple of like I'm sure there are more shows than I know of that do this. Like, well, which was one. Like sometimes we would be on our own, but often we'd be together. And like Bob's Burgers is a show that like I think always as a rule they are always. I mean, maybe not every time. I'm sure if somebody has a scheduling conflict, they'll make it work. But like getting to film together in the same space is like a big part of how that show gets made because
Hmm.
the way they kind of like bounce off of each other and the
Oh
vibe
yeah.
like when you have voiceover that is a little like when the vibe of the show is more improvised, like they like to have people in the same space kind of like playing off of each other. Sometimes it's a little more like we want you to kind of stick with what's on the page or like really play around line by line as opposed to like working off of each other in that way, and in those cases it's usually more you're recording on your own.
Yeah. Hmm. Talking about famous animated movie studios, did you see the Peanuts movie that they did a couple years ago?
I didn't. And that's I
I
can't
like
even
it.
believe I'm admitting that on this show because I always meant to and everybody loved it and couldn't stop
Yeah.
talking about how much they loved it. And I feel like I need to just like sit down and watch it
Well, it's
sometime.
not. I don't know if it's available on Disney Plus in the States, but it's available here.
I'm sure it is. I have no excuse, truly.
Yeah, it's. I went to it with my dad right on opening day because my dad, in a way, is the one who introduced Peanuts to me.
Oh.
Like it was what he grew up with. The Charlie
Yeah,
Brown Christmas.
yeah.
I started watching. Believe it or not, the first ever Peanuts production I watched, it was around Christmas time, but it wasn't that one. It was it was talking about obscure Christmas productions. To all you listeners out there, you guys think I should do a Peanuts nostalgia talk Christmas bonus? I mean, there's a lot of obscure holiday Peanuts productions out there, including this one. I Want a Dog for Christmas, Charlie Brown.
That's great. Yeah.
Did you? I feel like that
I
would have
don't
been
know if I've
around.
seen that one.
Okay, yeah, I was wondering if maybe you auditioned for it or something.
Gosh, I don't know. I think I don't remember what it was that I actually auditioned with, but I did the two specials and they would basically like they had you come in to test your voice every once in a while, basically to see like because you're at an age where your voice is changing really rapidly, like to see do you sound the same, basically. And
Hmm.
then at a certain point like you age out and basically like get fired. Like that was the first time I ever
Yeah.
got fired and I was so sad and then like after I, stopped being sort of immediately sad, I was like actually this is kind of lovely because I'm a part of this legacy. Like this like Charlie Brown family of people who've been doing this like for so long and that's how it happens is that they get these kids like right at this moment where they're sort of in the like pitch perfect place for this project. They do a couple of shows and then they kind of move on and they get somebody new, like which is kind of lovely.
Hmm. So let's talk a little bit about which of course it's
Yeah.
which of course is something that you're popularly known for. Um, so how did you hear about that, and how
that
did you
was
get
an
to be a part of it?
that was another thing that I think just like came in through my agents and I think that I mean they were excited at the idea of having kids in it, but like their main cast, so basically which is like five main girls who are like W.I.T.C.H is like the initials of their name, and they make up this. They sort of like transform to make like this kind of like superhero team type thing.
Hmm.
And all of the people in that were basically adults. I think one of them was like maybe a teenager at the time, but like an older teenager. So they were
Right.
all like adults playing kids, and there were like a couple of kids on the show like me. And it's an interesting thing that they did it that way, like blending real kids and adults playing kids in one show. I don't know how often that gets done, but like I think that they wanted to have more kids in the cast, and that was why I got brought on. I don't know if they only auditioned kids for that role, if they auditioned kids and adults. I mean, like that's certainly something that happens now. I'll go in for roles now where they're like, we don't know if we want a kid or an adult, so like we'll see what happens. But yeah, I just was lucky enough to book that, and I didn't know what the comic was. I had never heard of it, but I knew it was like very popular in Italy, I think. And I was so
Yeah.
excited when I started looking into it because I was like, oh, like there's my character like all over the place and there's all of this like story and people are excited about it online. Like, there's a lot of like world building and sort of like fandom out there already, which was cool, even though I sort of hadn't like been familiar with it until I booked it.
Hmm.
But it was and it's sort of the longest process I've been a part of because we did two seasons and then sadly didn't get renewed for a third.
Aw.
But I got to be a part of it for like a couple of years, which was really exciting.
Hmm. I watched a little bit of Witch getting ready for this. It actually looked really, really familiar. I
Oh
don't know.
yeah. It
I don't
used to
know.
play on Disney kind of at random times, and when Toon
Okay.
Disney was a thing, it was kind of like often on Toon Disney, and they would play it on like ABC Saturday morning. So
That might be where I saw it.
yeah,
That might be where I saw it. It looked a little bit like anime kind of.
yes, it has a very anime vibe, which is I think like Toon Disney was trying to like spin off a little bit in that direction and get the like kind of gargoyles type like fan base
Yeah.
interested.
I mean, I've only been into anime for the last year. Like I grew up when Pokemon was popular, but Pokemon wasn't really something I ever watched. I thought it was cool when I did watch it, but I just wasn't a Pokemon kid. Like I didn't go around trading Pokemon cards in elementary school like every other preteen boy my
Yeah.
age did. Um no, yeah. It wasn't until recently I got into it when I watched Spirited Away.
Oh gosh, I love Spirit. I mean, yeah, I love Miyazaki movies. I'm not. I wouldn't say that I'm like super into anime the way that like some people who are really into anime are.
Oh
Like,
yeah, I went to high school with people who could draw anime, and they did it
oh
really,
yeah,
really well. I was impressed.
yeah. When there's so much content out there, like so much, you can really like fall down the rabbit hole of anime.
Yeah, I finally watched Howl's Moving Castle a few weeks ago.
Oh, fun. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's good.
great, great film.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was.
Hmm.
What did Gosh, I just watched it and I can't remember what it's called. It is called Nausicaa Valley of the Wind, which is I hadn't seen that one, but I saw
That
that in the
is that
theaters
a
recently.
is that a Studio Ghibli film?
Yeah, it's a Miyazaki movie. It's like I
Okay,
think
yeah, I think I watched that with a friend of mine recently.
yeah, it's really it was beautiful. I thought it was really beautiful seeing it
Yeah,
in
and
the big
anime is
screen.
so well written too. Like
Yeah.
it really is. Like I was very impressed by the story of Spirited Away and by Howl's Moving Castle. Um, I went to my first ever HalCon, which is our fan convention here, and Leah Clark was there from My Hero Academia,
Oh,
which
cool.
I had never seen, but I thought that anime is really, really nicely done. So I met her and asked her to sign something. She said, "Who am I making this out to?" I said, "This is to James." She said, and like I told her I was very new at anime, so she says, "Are you James or is James your friend?" I was like, "Nope, James is my name."
Yeah.
And stupid question, what's this character's name? I made myself look like a total idiot, but she was so nice.
Yeah, oh, that's good. That's
Yeah, but
good.
yeah, anime is so well written, and what I saw of Witch was really really cool. I saw your character with superpowers. That's all I remember of it.
Yes. So like my character was so there were these five girls who were like all best friends, and one of them, Cornelia, had who was like the earth element because they were all sort of like the elements. And one of them,
Oh, that's
Cornelia
interesting.
had, it's cool. It's also really cool like visually the way that they transform.
Oh yeah.
But Cornelia's like best friend was this girl named Elyon, who was my character, and in the beginning of the season, like Elyon is sort of noticing that they're all kind of like being weird and secretive and hanging out without her, and she starts to feel like left out and weird about it. And you think she's just like a regular neighborhood kid, and then you find out that she's like actually the long lost princess of this like dimension that these girls are going back and forth between, and they don't know and she doesn't know, and then they find out but like they can't tell her. And so there starts to be like these divisions in their friendships that they can't explain to her because she thinks like she's being left out all the time, they're keeping things from her. And then um the like evil forces of Meridian kind of use that to their advantage and start and like reveal to her the truth and try to convince her that like they're the good guys when they're not the good guys. And that's kind of like the plot of season 1 is like Elyon learning about her powers and her like evil brother trying to he's basically trying to like set it up that he can take those powers,
I
and the
think
girls are
that
trying
I
to
saw.
convince.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and she's super powerful, which was like so much fun because I mean, I was just in the studio like I don't know, making sounds and everyone's like, "What?" Like I didn't know what it was going to look like, but she can do like she can do cool stuff.
I
Yeah.
was wondering that if you got to see what it all looked like, so that way when she does use her superpowers, then that way you could know like what kind of emphasis she would have to sound
Yeah,
like.
no, I did not get to see anything until, I mean, between seasons 1 and 2, I got to watch the show, and then I was like, okay, this is the visual world that we're working in. But other than like the art, I mean, there were comics, so I kind of knew I could see the visuals from the comics, which they were sort of very much going off of, and that was helpful. But it was definitely a learning. Like I learned a lot about I don't, like making sounds that are not like natural and human, because you're sort of like these like effort sounds or these power sounds, these magic sounds, which, you know, you're kind of just making up a way to do that, and feeling out something that's going to sound right, and they're sort of coaching you in a way where like, and that was definitely like a learning. I mean, the adult actors were so good at that, like we were so experienced, and I like really had to kind of like feel my way through it. But as I got accustomed to it, like I definitely got better at it. But it was so fun, like,
I bet.
just
Yeah. It looked
seeing
like
it
a
in the
fun show.
script, like someone's getting thrown over there, like because she waves her hand, and being like, okay, well, what's the thing that I'm doing that is gonna feel like that? Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Hmm. So you also got to be on an episode of Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide. That was even harder to say when I was a kid.
I did, yeah.
What was that like?
Oh gosh, that was so fun. I had done like, I mean, I was a kid, so I was really into like Nickelodeon and Disney Channel and
Oh
stuff.
yeah, Nickelodeon, Disney Channel. That's what inspired me to want to get into film.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I had done animated stuff, which was awesome, but like, I had never gotten to do, I had done a lot of on camera stuff, but mostly not stuff that I would have watched. Like, it was, movies that were like rated R and I couldn't really see them, or like pilots that, or episodes of
Getting
like
killed in a bowling alley.
getting killed in a bowling alley. Literally couldn't see it. I did this show called The Others that was like kind of like an X-Files type show, where I was also like a little girl in a hospital, and there were all these like creepy worms, like things like that. Things that I was like, oh, cool. And like, it's fun to do, but this isn't, I was like, Nickelodeon was like, it felt like such a big deal because it was the stuff that like I was a fan of.
Mhm.
And like I had seen the show, and I was I was so excited. And everyone was kids. Like, again, sometimes when you are a kid in a movie or TV show, like you're the only kid, and you it's just like it's like a little lonelier, like you're just
Mhm.
sort of like, what am I doing here? And trying to like hope that you're doing a good job, and like hanging out with the set teacher. But doing that show, like, there were just like kids everywhere. Although, it was a little intimidating because all of the leads of the show like were doing this every day, and it was like their job, and I was sort of like coming into this like pre this like world that already existed,
Mhm.
but it was super fun, like getting to be on set, like be at the school, like be in that environment where like all the stars were kids. Like, it was awesome.
Mm. And just to any of the listeners who don't know what set teacher means, I've seen this in behind the scenes of Disney Channel shows before. Because a lot of the actors on these shows are under the age of 18, they still do need to go to school. So typically they would set you up with a teacher who would handle all of that, who would be like your on-set teacher in between shots. So any of you young actors thinking you can get out of school, not gonna happen. Sorry.
You cannot. Yeah, it's true. And it's funny because like legally they have to have a set teacher there, whether or not
Mhm.
it's like, so if you're on a show every single day, like you're going to school with that set teacher and they're really actually like teaching you stuff. Other times you're missing maybe like one day of school, and your teacher kind of gives you like a worksheet,
Mhm.
and you have like one day with the set teacher, and you're like, I could just do this worksheet later, but you have to sit with the set teacher for a certain amount of time because like legally they have to do that, if you're under 18. So then, and like, the cool set teachers were the ones that were like, why don't you do that homework later and we'll like play Mancala or something. And you're like, yes, score, like I got the cool set teacher who like isn't
Yeah,
making me do my homework.
the teachers who tried to be more like your friend.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it was, yes, as a kid on sets, like you spend a lot of time with various set teachers. Like it's usually like, oftentimes like if you're not in your trailer or like getting hair and makeup done, like you're just hanging out with the set teacher.
Mm. I frequently ask this question to people like you who have done animated shows and live action TV shows. So, I'm kidding. Too easy. What is the big? What is the? If I knew how to play the trombone, it would be a lot easier. My sister
You
did
gotta
years ago.
learn. You're gonna have to learn just for this show so you can do that joke.
If
We'll
I get
put in
any
that
more,
audio gag.
well, you're the second person from Peanuts I've ever interviewed, so maybe so now we need that third time's a charm guest. So
Yeah.
So what is the big difference for you doing animated shows and doing live action shows?
Um, it, I think, I mean, just in terms of like stamp, I mean, okay. The big difference really is when you're doing an animated show, you have one tool and that is your voice, and it's sort of your job to figure out how do I funnel everything I need to express, everything that it's my job to express into just my voice.
Mhm.
When you are on set, the tool is your whole body. Also, there are a million other moving parts around you. So in many ways, like, your job is to make sure you're standing in the right place. Like, your job is to know what you're doing so that when they roll those cameras, like, you do your piece of the puzzle, you know? Like, you are very much a piece of the puzzle. Um and I think if you have a bigger role, if you are the lead of a movie or of a TV show, you get to kind of like direct that energy a little bit more. But when you are a piece of something, like, that's what it feels like, and that can be really exciting because you can sort of like feel the bustle around you, and that's awesome. Voiceover, it feels like it's much more in some ways in your control in that moment, and like focused on you, and a lot more, sometimes there's like more creativity that comes into it because it's kind of your job to figure out how to bring something to life like on your own with just your voice. And animators are going to take that, usually you're recording before they've animated, sometimes maybe not. But animators are going to take what you did and create a world. And so you kind of have to create that world in your head, which I find really exciting. And you have to figure out, like, what do I need to do as a performer and as an actor to make that world come to life, like physically, with my breath, with my voice. Like, it's kind of its own puzzle that you are totally in charge of, as opposed to being like a piece of a puzzle somebody else is creating, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'd say that makes sense. I'm just putting it together in my head because
Yeah, I
I've
I
done
just said a lot
some
of
acting
things.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So you've going back to the whole theater thing. You've also done writing for theater as well.
Yeah, that's a lot of
Hmm.
what I've been doing these days is
Okay.
writing, which has been a lot of fun.
Like for theater, or do you have like plans to write your own like show or anything, like either it's
Yeah,
on stage show or whatever?
both, I would say. I started writing plays maybe 5 years ago or so,
Okay.
and started getting involved in some theaters in New York, like had residencies and things like that, which was really really exciting. And then in the past couple years, honestly, like, the pandemic was a part of that too, because theater really shut down, and like, uh, I got to focus a lot on my writing, which was really nice. And also, voiceover was a huge gift at that time too, because I could do that from my home. Um, but yeah, I got to focus a lot on writing. And while theater was sort of at a standstill, like, the film and television world was kind of still going in its own way, and because things were remote, being in New York, I got to sort of meet people in LA over Zoom, like, which didn't really exist. It wasn't a very common thing before that. So I started like writing television shows, like pilots for television shows, and sort of
Oh,
coming up with ideas, and working on screenplays and things like that. And so that's like something I'm very interested in, and working on now. I mean, it's fun. Like, being an actor is like, I mean, if you're very lucky and you're sort of constantly working, like, then that's it. That's maybe all you have capacity for. But most actors are not that lucky, and you just kind of have to, like, or you wind up, especially if you're like me and you're just a total workaholic, you just wind up like filling your time with whatever creative endeavors you can kind of like get your hands on. So
same.
yeah, it's just a fun, I really like being on all sides of it. So I think, like, in my ideal world, I could be acting and writing and making things, maybe directing, like, it's so it's been really fun getting to like be on that side of it.
Yeah, as I was getting ready for this, I saw a few little skits you've done on YouTube. And to any of the listeners, I'll put links in the corner of the video if you want to check them out. There was a couple I saw with a company called 24 Hour Plays, I believe.
Yeah. They're a fabulous company. I've been working with them for a little while. Like, I've done some producing work with them,
Hmm.
as well as writing and acting. And when the pandemic started, they started doing a thing called viral monologues because,
Yeah, that's what I
uh,
saw. Yeah, some of the viral
yeah, before
monologues.
that, like it was all live shows, and then very quickly, like in the pandemic, like a week in, they sort of figured out how to adapt to this model where rather than a live performance that was created in 24 hours, like that's the premise of the company is that people come together to make work in 24 hours. And they figured out a way to do that where like a writer would write something and one actor would film themselves remotely in like a monologue. And sometimes as the pandemic went on and, they would do scenes, either like two people who were not in the same space but on Zoom were cut together, or people would sort of come together physically once vaccines were available, or they'd meet outside, that kind of thing. But yeah, so they've been doing that for a couple years, and it was like a kind of um a big thing for them because a lot more people got to see the work that the 24 hour plays does than we're able to before.
Hmm. Well, to all you listeners, check out 24 Hour Plays. They do some pretty good stuff. Mhm.
Please,
So,
yes.
yeah. So let's wrap it up with are you working on anything at the moment now that you can talk about? Like, what are you working on right now?
Oh, what am I working on right now? I am I'm working on a couple plays of mine just in development. I'm actually, in the next year, I'm going to be acting in a play in New York that is about a college improv team circling it back
Oh,
to improv. It's this theater company called Egg and Spoon, and a good friend of mine, David Rosenberg, wrote this play about a college improv team, and the play is called "What Else Is True." And Egg and Spoon is going to produce it this coming year, so we're waiting on dates for that. But that's something I'm really excited about. It's a really fun play, and we've gotten to like workshop it a couple of times, and I'm excited to get to do a full production.
congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Maybe I'll and that's next year.
Yeah, it will either be in the fall, like it will either be at the end of 20. I think it'll probably be at the end of 2023. Hopefully
Okay.
we'll know soon.
Well, maybe I'll see if I can make myself out to New York to see
Ooh,
it.
yeah, New York field trip.
Yeah,
And anything else, I check out, I don't know, website, Instagram, whatever. If anything
mm.
else is sort of coming up, that's where it'll be.
Well, I'll put the links to your social media in the description in case anybody wants to follow you or connect with you.
Awesome.
Hmm. And Serena, it was great having you on Nostalgia Talk. Is there anything you'd like to say to finish?
Um, I'm very pro nostalgia, so thank you for doing this. You're doing a public service. Keep the nostalgia going, James.
Thank you very much. And to all you listeners, I will see you for the next Nostalgia Talk, episode number 55.
Woo!
Yeah, that's not a joke. Double the five, you get 55. That brings back a lot of college memories for me. But anyway, I will see you then. Peace.